We are live.
Live, Senate Appropriations back after quite a break, like a week or something. It's May 28th. We're going to take up one bill, which could be the last action committee of the year, H211. Mr. Siegel, you'll tell us what this bill does.
Good afternoon. So, Rick Sagal with the Office of Legislative Counsel. I can share my screen, or I can just kind of give you the summary of the bill, whatever the
Summary is fine.
summary. So, it's a fairly long bill. It's 43 pages. It regulates data brokers, which Vermont was one of the first states. I think it's been 6-7 years since Vermont created the registry. So, under current law, data brokers in Vermont have to register with the Secretary of State's office, and that's kind of it. They're not regulated. They pay an annual fee of $100, which is increased. This bill increased some penalty or final increment. They face pretty stiff penalties as well. It attempts to somewhat mimic what California's doing with the data brokers. They've taken the pretty unique take of actually allowing consumers to log into a government website and request their information to be deleted. And the government actually has the system that they built that, from what I can tell, it's a very user-friendly system. And as introduced, that bill was going to do that, but then the cost was something you all would not have been able to see on paper in the millions. So instead, what the bill does, as far as appropriation goes, is regulate data brokers further, and then have the Secretary of State's office perform a study to actually see how much it would cost to develop one of these deletion mechanisms. Perhaps borrowing from California, working probably in collaboration with California. Maybe they can license that technology to Vermont. So there is an appropriation for that of $50,000. And I'll let Scott maybe get more detail there. They can still do the study, but the $50,000 would be to hire consultants to help them with the study. So that's the one appropriation in the bill. Senate Finance took a look at it, and they reported favorably on what the Senate Economic Development Committee did. The bill, they made a few substantive, not money changes, but changes to the definitions.
Okay.
That's the light.
That's right. So we fiscal next.
Or I can even just sit right here and say I'm moving. Scott Moore, Joint Fiscal Office. As Rick had mentioned, this bill, as it came over, does have a $50,000 appropriation to hire this consultant. The House budget construct did have that $50,000. Last I looked, the Senate budget construct did not. So something Senator Pritchard will have to work out in Congress. Other than that, the other things that do affect impact to the fiscalness of Vermont, the fees rising from 100 to 900 would be about $250,000 versus $28,000 it would come in. There's estimated to be 283 current data brokers in the state. And then this bill also adds a couple people to the Congress committee.
Could they use that money for their study?
In theory, if the money comes in. Now that money is an annual amount. It's not necessarily tied to any fiscal year, because data brokers, they sign up today, for instance, they'd have would they be paying in FY26, FY27. So,
And did you put in here what you think that the fines or the fees would raise?
no, because there's no way to necessarily know how many people are going to be putting in incorrect information that would have to be chased down.
Because right now they don't have any fines or fees.
There is one fine. If they don't register and they are caught acting without being registered, I'm looking for that current fee.
$50 a day.
That sounds correct. $100 a day, one of those two. Then that goes up 50 a day, up to 10,000 a year. That goes to 200 a day with no cap. Per year. Yeah.
Who oversees the fine?
Secretary of State.
Okay, so it's not a consumer protection.
It could be, but they would have to have damages. So the consumer would have to find a way to say that I was damaged, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
David Hall from the Secretary of State's office did say that that's something that you look at in terms of if they put in materially incorrect information. But it's hard to say what that looks like in terms of estimate.
And does the Secretary of State keep that money?
It was only phone, Rick, I think.
That was scripted.
That was scripted with that book.
Yeah, there's no, it's stay with them.
Stays with Secretary of State.
Yeah.
They would collect it and keep it. Correct. Okay. And the Cyber Security Advisory Council would get per diems coming out of the Secretary of State's budget.
The statute
That is so yeah, that's a separate, Senate Economic Development Committee.
Yeah.
Had a request to add 3 members to that council. Basically the chairs of the IT committees in each chamber, and then a member from the judiciary. So those 3 members would be added to the council, and then extending the sunset 5 years.
Where would the per diems come from?
The statute does say that of the members currently there are 11, and that will be money funded to the executive branch. Those other 2 would be the per diems for the 2 that we care about in terms of the chairs of the different departments would come from the legislative budget. All the different summer studies committees.
So if there are legislators that come from the General Assembly budget.
Correct. And it's de minimis. It's, you know, every meeting's $100 come with it's not much.
Right. Okay. We have an amendment.
About the amendments.
Yeah.
I only have one.
I can share that on my screen.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. So I asked Rick to do an amendment that would take out that $50,000 for the committee to discuss it, so we don't have that accounted for. But leave the language, in case they want to use the money that they receive and want to do the study, keeps the study language in there, but
Right.
it takes the 50,000.
That's kind of the one question I had for you all is the 50,000, as written in the House language is for the consultant. They could theoretically still do the studies without the consultants. I've not heard testimony otherwise, I guess. So the way this is drafted is that they would still do the study. The report is due in 2028. Perhaps they'd get money next year, right, to hire a consultant, but they would still have to study. They just wouldn't get the money. They wouldn't have to hire consultants. That's how it's currently written. That's section 2A. Right. The second instance is Senate Finance. Towards the very end of their testimony, David Hall from the Secretary of State's office was testifying, requested that there's language in the Senate Economic Development Committee amendments that adds in ed tech registration language. And David Hall requested that that be effective Jan 1, 2027. So they have time to update their systems. So that's the only change is that section 4 takes effect January 1. Previously, it was July 1, 2026. And 2A is also new, but that's the contingency.
There's your first instance is the deletion of the appropriation.
Yeah, so the first instance of that, not delete, no, so the appropriation.
No, just because there's no appropriation, is there an appropriation in the bill though?
Yes,
We take that out.
you want to strike that subsection.
I think it's clear, then we don't have a bill that has an appropriation in it, and then they realize it's not in the budget.
So if
So
you
we're gonna
want,
make an amendment anyway.
so if you want to do that, then you don't need this, because that, I'll show you the language actually. That,
But then you would keep this, so. Duty to hire is contingent upon appropriation. They can still do it.
yeah, I think just the way it's drafted, I'll let you all think about what you want to do. So this is as passed by the House. This was not amended by the Senate Economic Development Committee. So section 2 is the study. So it talks about what they shall do. And at the very end, subsection B is the report, as I mentioned, due December 1st, 2028. And then C is the 50,000 for hiring a consultant. So you could just
Right, see,
you could just strike C, and then you don't really have a contingency needed for that.
and the other language above it would be there.
Right.
Okay. For me, that seems cleaner. So it's really, instead of section 2A, it would be
By amending
C.
section 2 of the bill, yeah, I'll maybe a couple minutes, I'll have that number for you.
Okay, well, while you're doing it, we should be to leave this. Any questions, comments? Okay. Clerk, it's the clerk,
Central lab, line section.
maybe the last clerking.
Here.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe next year we'll have a new clerk.
Stop.
Look, I could take down one of two. Then you'll be chair. I'll for a lack of clerk. It's the whole musical chairs going.
I gotta wait till next year to thinking about that. That's something.
You can start lobbying for the musician.
Stated his intention.
Senator Baruch,
Yes.
Senator Brennan, yes. Senator Lyon,
Yes.
Senator Norris,
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Westman. Senator Hurtford.
Yes. I can look forward to our meeting.
Sounds good.
I'll start. The rule was whoever raised their hand would move it.
Okay. Any other business for the committee? Okay, we will adjourn possibly for the year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a good year. Thank you.
Good job, folks.